welcome back to Mysteries channel. I just really want to say thank you guys so much for checking out my video, for contributing to the success of my channel. I'm a super small, brand new YouTuber, so I don't know, it's very exciting to me, and I really appreciate everybody that helps me get further than I am. So thank you for checking this out. Thank you for leaving comments, for sharing and subscribing. I really appreciate you. And I hope you have a great day today. Today, the title is Quantum Superposition. Does it confirm Tesla's wave theory? Does it? We'll see. Probably. Maybe. I don't even know. Let's go over it. I don't know, it was maybe about a week back we talked about Tesla and that he believed everything was sound in the ether. Tesla believed that everything we see, we hear, smell, think, feel, everything is light. He also believed that light couldn't be anything else but a longitudinal disturbance in the ether involving compressions and refractions. In the end, and I quote, "Light can be nothing else but a sound wave in the ether," unquote. Well, I started looking up articles and I found some pretty interesting things, and I wanted to share it with you guys. I know this isn't conventionally the kind of stuff I talk about, but why not go down the rabbit hole a little bit and involve more than just theories of a person that is no longer here? Let's go see what other people are talking and thinking about. Now let's get down to what we're really here to talk about. But before that, I just want to give a disclaimer. I'm obviously not a huge learned person in any of these fields. I find it interesting while I am researching other things that interest me that these things pop up, and so I do take time to not just watch one video or read one article. I try to look at a bunch of different things to see if it all correlates and doesn't contradict one another, and then I try to make a video about it in layman's terms, because that's how I understand things better, is once it's broken down to words and terms that I understand instead of mathematical equations that I've never been exposed to before. So that being said, now let's really get into it. Mass is the only thing that does not move at the speed of light. Gravity, light, electromagnetism, strong and weak nuclear force, and almost any other form of energy or information that we've ever even theorized moves at the speed of light. Well, almost. Today I want to go over an experiment I read about in Scientific American. The study was done to demonstrate a bizarre quantum effect that was never seen before at this scale. They've been researching and trying to figure this out since, well, at least the 1920s, but really before that even. And I wonder if this article that I was reading about and the bizarre quantum effect that we're going to talk about lends to Tesla's theory that everything is sound waves. Well, maybe a little. Maybe just a little. But still, let's go over it. Something that has been known to be theoretically true in science is that every particle or group of particles in the known universe is a wave. Bacteria, the door behind me, the cat that walks in and out of this room, the trees outside, me, planets, stars, the very universe itself is a wave. Waves can occupy multiple spaces at once, which then leads to any piece of matter can occupy multiple spaces at once. For decades, physicists have demonstrated this phenomena using small particles. The principle is called quantum superposition. Now, quantum superposition states that if a physical system may be in one of many configurations, arrangements, or particle fields, then the most general state is a combination of all these possibilities, where the amount of each configuration is specified by a complex number. Quantum superposition arises because at the quantum scale, particles behave like waves. And like the way multiple waves can overlap to form a new wave, quantum particles can exist in two places at once. Maybe you've heard of the double slit experiment. There's a fantastic video on it. I will put it in the description below. I suggest you watch it because it's fascinating. The double slit experiment is when researchers fired a light through a sheet that had two slits in it. This would create an interference pattern on the back. If you stopped my video to watch the video that's in the description, I'm telling you this will all make plenty of sense because they can give you the visual on it, where I haven't figured that part out yet. But it would create an interference pattern, a series of light and dark figures on the wall behind the sheet. Because light is considered massless, this was no surprise. Like, they were expecting this and that's what they got. Exactly that. Complex patterns on the back wall through the sheet because light is massless. In this way, it can be at multiple places at once. However, in the 1920s, physicists recreated this experiment with electrons and they got a similar result. This was a huge surprise. You see, electrons were particles and could only occupy one space at a time. Physicists knew that electrons have mass and were particles, but the results they got were similar to light. They got complex patterns on the sheet behind them. Once they saw this, they knew that the electrons were interfering with themselves. And that, my friends, is a telltale sign of a wave. Multiple waves overlapping each other, creating complex patterns on the back. And this taught them that matter acts both as a particle and as a wave. So not just massless items, items with mass. And this kind of brings me to the experiment that we're talking about today, the one in Scientific American. Because for decades, physicists have been recreating this experiment from the 20s, demonstrating quantum superposition with small particles, but only recently have researchers caused a molecule of up to 2,000 atoms combined together to occupy two places at once. This is because more massive items have shorter wavelengths. The shorter wavelengths are harder to detect on the back sheet, the back wall, and they can lead because they have barely perceptible patterns, interference patterns. It just makes it a lot trickier for the researchers to be able to pull that data. So in order to pull off this experiment, researchers had to build a machine that could fire a beam of molecules through a series of grates and sheets bearing multiple slits. The beam itself was 6.5 feet long, so big in fact that researchers had to account for gravity and the Earth's rotation in their experiments. And in an exciting result, researchers confirmed the interference patterns indeed presented, proving that molecules were occupying multiple points in space at once. Let me repeat that. Molecules were occupying multiple points in space at once. So what does that mean? It's hard to understand, like multiple points in space at once. What exactly does it mean? Is it time traveling? What is it? It's kind of broken down like this. Here's my most layman's way of putting it. You're in a car and your family is having this dispute over where they're gonna eat. I want Mexican. My husband, he wants burgers. The kids one wants pizza, the other one wants Chinese buffet. Someone finally pulls out the trump card. They're like, you guys always get to pick. I never do. It's my turn. We're having pizza. All right, so we're gonna go and have pizza. But when that decision is made, the world splits. Reality splits. And at the same time that my family is having pizza, in another reality, we're having Mexican food, we're having burgers, we're having Chinese. In another reality, even still, I'm in the basement of my parents' house having ramen noodles. That's what it's saying. And it's interesting because in so much science fiction, there are so many people that talk about multi-dimensional or even the Mandela effect. And I feel like it all ties together right here. What they are basically saying is whether a beam of light hits Mars, a bird flies into your window, or a bug flies into your drink. Every single thing that happens, every minute thing, every big thing, creates this chasm where it is happening here and something completely different is happening somewhere else. And it's not like a huge difference is happening, but maybe it's more like these small differences kind of come to a point where eventually it rolls into bigger differences. So it's like, here's the Earth, there's millions of them. Boop, 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 boop. And it is Mexican, Chinese food, pizza, ramens, who freaking knows? All these different options are happening, and then the splits off of those different options are also playing out. Now, I know some of you are going to be like, that's just fucking nuts. But let me just tell you this. People in the scientific or the science fiction community have been talking about this kind of stuff, woo-woo stuff forever, and it is fascinating and it is fun to read about. But guess what? Scholars are also talking about this. They just call it something else. What they call it is many worlds interpretation. Now, there is a fence right there, and some of them are on this side of the fence saying, dumbest shit I've ever heard, and then some are on this side of the fence. One on this side of the fence is named Stephen Hawking. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. Just joking. Everybody has. And guess what he says? Many worlds interpretation is self-evidently true. He 100% prescribes to that theory. He thinks that is basically exactly right. The reason to me that it rings true to Tesla is the whole wave part of it. He basically says everything is light, but light itself is what? It's a wave. It's not just a wave, it's a sound wave. He says sound wave because he's trying to break down what the ether is. I don't fully understand it, but basically it's the medium at which everything travels, and we're all sound, according to Tesla. What do I know? Not a whole lot. But anyway, does this quantum superposition lend any credibility to Tesla's theory? To me, it kind of does. It kind of does. It's freaking crazy. And it's funny because we have all these different things we all talk about, and it almost always comes back to this language semantic. Like people that believe in the Mandela effect, or, you know, people kind of look at them like, you're one of those. But there's freaking physicists that believe in it. They just call it something else. Nuts, right? Anyway, that's really the only thing I have for you today. Tell me what you think. Am I completely off base trying to put these, you know, sciencey videos out here? Because well, let's be real, I'm no scientist. Or do you guys find it as fascinating as I do and I should continue to throw a couple of them up every once in a while? What's your theory? What do you feel about this whole quantum superposition thing? Do you think that it lends to Tesla's theory on light or sound in the ether? Or do you think it's even more fascinating, this whole Mandela effect and the multi-world interpretation? I really started researching it for Tesla's stinking light. It's like no matter which way I go, there's light in my face. Sorry. I really started researching this stuff for Tesla, but when I got to the multi-world interpretations, like shit, this is the Mandela effect. Anyway, tell me what you think and have a great day. And thank you for watching my videos.